What's up, y'all? Your eyes and your ears don't lie. Back at you again. And it's funny because I had to jump back on real quick because, some people was commenting on some of my other videos since I love to hate Trump. I love to hate y'all maggots and all of y'all because y'all scum. This is more than just a difference in political opinion and just disagreeing with political things. This has to do with where you stand morally and whether you got human decency or not. People often say that politics ain't supposed to divide you. You still the same person, regardless of who you voted for. And people that voted for Trump and people that voted for Kamala, you should still be friends. There's nothing that should divide you. People have the right to vote for who they want to vote for. That's true. You're absolutely right in that statement that you got the right to vote for whoever you want to. But the orange-faced gremlin is so disgusting and morally flawed and a criminal, a sex offender, a pedophile. Because I say sex offender and pedophile because all of his victims weren't just kids. So you got to make sure you talk about it right. And these members of this MAGA movement, you MAGA maggots, you pedophile protection league members, there's something wrong with y'all. There's seriously something wrong with y'all to not find his behavior disqualifying unless you involved in that kind of behavior. You support that kind of behavior. Yeah, I had to grab the little homie. He was making noise because he felt left out because he like a little kid. Where if you ain't paying attention to him, he start making noise. So you might see his head or his ears wiggling. But they were commenting on some of my videos talking about how, what am I going to say now since I'm such a hater? And that Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for brokering that deal with Azerbaijan and Armenia. But you must not have read the deal or know the history of it. Because the whole time when Biden was in office, all Trump talked about was how there were no wars when he was in office. Azerbaijan invaded Armenia while Trump was in office the first time in 2020. And all he talked about while he was trying to run this third time around, all he talked about was he stood with the Armenian people and that they were fighting so strongly and they were so dedicated, and he stood with Armenia and he was going to help them. Sound familiar? So a large portion of the community in the country, the Armenians, they voted for Trump this last time around, thinking he was going to do some shit for you or your relatives that were there or the refugees that are here. So he hit y'all with the 42 fake that he hit the Muslim community with, the Arab community. Because a lot of y'all got behind Trump and voted for him because he's an anti-Semite. That he is not a fan of Jewish people, that he hosts the most racist anti-Semitists that are around. So you led with hate. And you said, damn, he hates Jewish people, so he gonna do something for us Arabs and Muslims in the world. He's gonna help the Palestinians. That fool don't give a damn about nothing but money and sex crimes. That's it. So you brokered a deal, and what the deal says is that the Armenians had to just basically surrender land because Azerbaijan's military is larger and more formidable, and since no one wants to back Armenia, it's not like what's going on in Ukraine, where at least Ukraine is getting U.S. support. Armenia is not, they don't got a backer that's supplying them military hardware and things to help them maintain this fight. And let me not say they don't have a large backer. You have smaller countries that have done what they can, but ultimately Azerbaijan's military is significantly larger. And in order for this to end, since the U.S. stalled you out, you didn't broker a deal. You just told him, you better agree to giving up your territory, and we're going to create a financial corridor that is going to be controlled by the United States, and only U.S. companies will rebuild the agriculture and the infrastructure. So you better be damn sure that the companies that are going to be out there rebuilding this country are going to be crooked ass companies associated with Trump that are going to be lining his pockets. Because now you're taking over, you got your hand in the pot in a country that you got no business being there at. So this so-called deal that you brokered peace, at what expense? So the invaders get what they wanted when they invaded the country, is they have to give up land to Azerbaijan to stop being murdered for the hope that you'll stop them from further invading your territory, and there might be some sort of financial gain to rebuild your country to a degree where you can at least try to live some sort of quality of life. And everybody that's saying all this shit about how great this is and all that, you wouldn't be saying that if you were the country that got invaded. You wouldn't be saying that. The wrong side is winning on this. And then you got the U.S., who you about to benefit financially by this deal when you didn't have no skin in the game, but you inserted yourself for financial gain, like you do everywhere in the world, for financial gain. You've never fought a war anywhere in this world that had to do with the benefit of humanity, the rights and protection of those who couldn't defend themselves, or for the right reasons. You've done it for selfish ass influence, resources, or cold hard cash. And it's despicable. Just like what's going on in Gaza. And it's not being covered like it used to. Because of this administration, you're pretty much, you got the right-wing news propaganda outlets of Fox and Newsmax, and then you have the other stations, which they're just afraid to do anything that pisses you off because it done turned into just punk-ass bitches that you just extort or bully. So they're willing to pay you to continue to operate and shit. The IDF has killed over 230 journalists since this military action started. 232 journalists. And why are you killing all these journalists? Because you don't want nobody to know the true story or what's really going on over there. Why you got a media blackout in Israel, where only state-run media is run over there. Everything is categorically false in the narrative of them saying that Israel was hit with an unprovoked attack on October 7th, 2023. Like, seriously, y'all need to really go educate yourselves out there. And I'm not on no high horse telling you that I know more than others, but this is clear information that's available to the public that's out there if you were to seek it out. They were attacked. The Palestinians were attacked probably 4 times that year, and they were conducting massacres of the Palestinians prior to October 7th. They were carrying out military actions there that were unprovoked. They had Israeli settlers massacring people with the support of the IDF. And if you don't believe me, let me go up in here and just... Let's see. Because I don't want to be, I always swear to people, I ain't talking out my ass. I'll tell you where I got the info, where you can look it up, where you can fact check it, where you can go and try to debunk it. Okay, so here we go, because this is something that I wanted to get right. So this was already set up in 2023 to be one of the bloodiest years in several decades in Palestinian history for the lives lost of Palestinians killed by the Israeli military actions. And what occurred, you had the Jenin raid, which occurred in July 2023, where they launched the largest raid in the Israeli military launched the largest raid in the West Bank in 2 decades. And they targeted Jenin refugee camp, a hospital, and journalists were reportedly shot during the operation. Though not in Gaza, this raid signaled a broader escalation in military posture across the Palestinian territories. And that was just one. They conducted additional operations. And they did it in March. They did it in May. They did it in August. So in October, I wouldn't exactly call, after you've killed thousands of Palestinians in an unprovoked action, this was not a defensive, retaliatory action. This was you going in there and just killing people. And you have been doing it the whole year. March 8th, there was an attack. June 28th, there was an attack. July 3rd, there was an attack. August 23rd, there was an attack. September 15th. Started restricting electricity and fuel restrictions to try to starve the people and freeze them out since the weather was changing. October 6th, you guys conducted escalating airstrikes and blockade enforcement across Gaza. The day before, you were attacked in Israel. So that's not exactly unprovoked attacks when you've been killing these people, not just all year, since your existence, since 1948. You've been constantly attacking the Palestinians because you're not looking for any type of harmony. You're looking for extermination, genocide, and the full occupation of all the Palestinian territory as all belonging to Israel. And before 1948, Arabs and Jewish people did live there. But what changed is the Jewish people that inhabit Israel right now are not the descendants of Canaan. They are European Jews from Europe. And that's why Israel has outlawed any DNA testing. It's illegal. You can't purchase privately and order any kind of DNA testing. It's not allowed in Israel unless it's ordered by the government. And the reason why is because this furthering of the lie that we belong here and this is ours, you start doing DNA and you realize that their ancestry is not the original Jewish people that were there. Because if you know history, the Israelites were there and then the Palestinians. And the Jewish left. Some stayed around, but they left. The ones who came back aren't the original Jews and the descendants. They're European Jews. You guys went to Europe, and of course, we understand how that shit didn't work out with them Germans and shit. So you decided to come back somewhere else. And because of the strategic advantages of being in what was Palestine before, you decided to come there. And you had the full support of the U.S. government financially and militarily when you first initially started. And as they helped you seize power because you were doing it in military jets, using military weapons, as you evolved into a country to stand on your own, you started developing your own military products and shit. But you're still, all them bombs you dropping, U.S. ordnance. All them planes you flying, U.S. made planes. F-15s, F-35s, F-22 Raptors. Excuse me, not the F-22s, because we're not selling those to anybody, because we still want to have the advantage in a dogfight. But they're selling all kind of F-35 variants to Israel and other countries. Interceptors. We supplying them the most interceptors for their Iron Dome and David and their other systems. We're supplying that. What Israel has allowed us to do is the largest U.S. weapons stockpile that we have in the world is housed in Europe, in Israel. And it's in Israel because when we go starting all this shit in the Middle East, because we want to make sure we control oil, and anybody who ain't trying to give us the oil we want, you're going to beef with us. So we house our largest weapons stockpile is in the Middle East, and it's in Israel. So all this weaponry that we've given them, all they did was ask permission to use what's already on their soil. So this whole thing, no, he does not deserve a damn Nobel Peace Prize. And this shit is, all of humanity should be ashamed of themselves that we're just sitting here and watching Israel do what they doing to the Palestinians. You just shot up some kids. You shooting women and children that are trying to get food. You're destroying food. You're not taking it. You're destroying it in front of them so they can just watch you destroy their food that they need to survive. They're dying of starvation and hunger, and everything that they're doing is a violation of the Geneva Convention, and you're committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. But that's why the United States and Israel do not recognize the authority of the International Criminal Court, because you know you're violating the damn laws. But yet, if there's a country that you don't like, you'll go to the International Criminal Courts and want to sanction somebody or have them arrested. Put out a global arrest warrant for them. You don't recognize any of their authority over you, but you want to use their authority over other countries. This shit is despicable. Since when does one human life mean more than the other? So where's that compassion and will to have the right thing done with human decency for the Palestinians, for the Armenians, for the countless other groups that are being victimized by other governments and entities? Nobody's more important than someone else. But you sure the hell have no problem condemning any actions by someone that you don't like while ignoring the real atrocities that are going on in the world. And it's horrible. When you really think about it, there's anger, there's frustration, but there's also sadness. To watch what they've done to that country. And now Netanyahu has said that they've approved a plan to permanently occupy all of Gaza. So their intention is to destroy everything and everyone so that should anyone survive, you'll have nowhere to come back to, and it will all be Israel. When you see the pictures of what Gaza looked like before they started destroying this shit and turning it into rubble, and that's not the only place. There's a lot of vicious shit going on in the world, but this is one that Israel is the only bully of the Middle East because they are the only nuclear armed country. So it's easier said than done, where why won't somebody come help and defend Palestine? But it's true where nuclear weapons are a huge deterrent. But what makes you the moral compass of the world to tell other countries they can't have nuclear weapons? Because you're not a morally conscious person. You're not a beacon of hope and righteousness. You do it because it allows you to maintain control and a level of fear. The only bully in the Middle East is Israel. They're the only ones that are attacking other countries and assassinating leaders.